Now, as an investigator on this case, did you have the occasion to investigate any crimes involving an individual by the name of Marquavius Huey?
I did.
And specifically, did you investigate an armed robbery that occurred in October of 2020?
I did.
All right. How did you get involved in that investigation?
Prior to coming to the DA's office, when I was at the GBI Gang Task Force, my office was at the Atlanta Police Department's headquarters in their gang unit, so I was very familiar with all the detectives and the different units up there. I was approached by a detective, Jeffrey Henderson, from the robbery unit, regarding a robbery case involving Mr. Huey that he had.
And when he approached you, what, if any, steps did you assist him when he approached you?
I did.
What steps did you take to assist him with that investigation?
Just identifying Mr. Huey's gang involvement, who he was affiliated with, who he would have had alliances with, who he would have had rivalries with, things of that nature.
And how did you go about assisting to identify Huey's relationships with any gang involvement?
Well, the first thing I did was review Mr. Huey's social media accounts. The name has changed a few times, but when I reviewed it, it was Mr. Huey's very proud of his affiliation with Young Slime Life.
Yep. Sustained. Don't provide commentary like that, okay? Just, if you're testifying to facts, just give us the facts. Disregard that last comment.
So just, what were some of his names?
JBS Quay for Jonesboro South Quay. I can't remember the rest of them off the top of my head, but it changed a few times.
And when you looked at his social media, did you also do any other investigation to assist Investigator Henderson?
When Investigator Henderson, following Mr. Huey's arrest, obtained his cellular devices, Investigator Henderson did a search warrant for his devices with a scope of 30 days. So what that means is when the phone is extracted, it's permissible to review 30 days worth of data. I think the time frame was just around the time of the robbery. Within that time frame, there were additional crimes and evidence in the phone. I secured search warrants to expand the scope of what was allowed to be searched to the entire phone, on 2 phones.
And once you were able to secure a search warrant, did you then look into the phone, the expanded phone?
I did.
And in preparation for your testimony today, have you had the opportunity to look at some of the contents in that phone?
I have.
Now, Investigator Viverito, when looking through the phone, well, let me ask you this. Prior to getting involved with this investigation with Marquavius Huey, did you have any knowledge of any beef between YFN and YSL?
Yes, since 2015, YSL and YFN had an ongoing conflict.
Overruled.
And when you were working with the GBI task force in 2020, did you have knowledge of that beef?
I did.
All right. Now, when you looked inside of Mr. Huey's phone, did you see any conversations in his phone regarding an individual by the name of Lucci?
I did.
Okay. And generally, what information was in the phone that you saw about an individual Lucci? What did you see at the phone?
I would see that when Lucci or Mr. Rayshawn Bennett, when Mr. Bennett would have, there was a handful of performances or appearances within the city of Atlanta. The flyer would be shared either by Mr. Williams or Mr. Huey, and Mr. Huey would talk about going to handle that, and would be told or asked to go handle that.
And you said he would be talking to Mr. Williams. How did you know, when you're saying Mr. Williams, who are you referring to?
Jeffrey Williams, also known as Young Thug.
How did you know he was speaking with Jeffrey Williams?
Based on the phone numbers that he was in communication with, as well as how they were named in the phone, but the phone numbers themselves.
I'm going to first show you what's been admitted as 227 VV2C. Now, first, looking at 227 VV2C, what is the jury looking at?
You're looking at when you extract a phone. If you go to your address book in your phone, you'll pull up contacts or a contact card. This is what it looks like when the phone is extracted. When you receive it back on a hard drive and you're going through the phone, this is what it's going to appear as. So you may have mom, a phone number, and that information. This is how it appears in a forensic phone extraction.
And for 227 VV2C, do you see a name associated with this contact?
Yes.
And what is the name?
It's named Slime, and it has some emojis with the name.
Okay. And are you able to tell what the emojis are?
It looks like a snake emoji, and I don't know if you guys can see. It should be like the iPhone emoji.
And then in this phone, when it says deleted, do you know what that means?
I would assume that I don't see it on my copy where it says deleted.
Where it says deleted in the left-hand column?
Oh, okay. There you go. So, yeah, that would be, I would assume that means that contact was deleted or removed from the device at some point, but still stored in the memory of the device somewhere.
Okay. And where it has other, what is in the other category?
That would be the number associated with that contact.
All right. And then for the created category, what's the created category?
That's going to be the date that the contact was added to the phone. So say you meet somebody, you add their contact to your phone, you put them in your address book, that's going to be that date.
Okay. And then if it was modified, what does that mean?
Modified could be you change their name, you add a last name, you delete the contact, or you modify the number in any way.
All right. And what was the phone number associated with this contact in the phone?
213-910-1192.
Now I'm going to also show you 227 VV2D.
Okay.
First, I want to start with the other. What is the phone number associated with this contact?
213-910-1192.
And is that the same phone number from 227 VV2C?
It is.
Right. And when you look at the name, what is in the name section?
So here, it's going to appear as almost like a bug type emoji, but I had a chance to review the physical device. It is a spider emoji. That's just how it translates to, I don't know if you have friends, if you have an iPhone, your friends, the Android, sometimes the emojis don't translate correctly. When you extract the phone, that's what happens here. So when you look at the physical device, it's going to be a spider.
And then what was the created and modified date on 227 VV2D?
March 1st of 2019 is created and modified November 22nd of 2020.
And through your investigation, did you associate this contact with an individual?
I did.
And who was that?
Jeffrey Williams.
All right. Now I'm going to publish 227 VV2A. What's being depicted in slide 2? And if we can zoom in, because I know it's pretty tiny.
So just like in your phone when you send a message, typically the message you're sending is going to be in green for iPhones, blue if the sent recipient has an iPhone. It's going to be on the right-hand side of the conversation. What that is going to be is it's a flyer for a YFN Lucci performance or appearance.
Okay. And who sent the flyer, and to whom did the flyer get sent to?
Mr. Huey sent that flyer to Mr. Williams.
All right. And looking at slide 3, in the middle, what is in the middle? Is that the attachment of what the flyer is?
Yes.
Okay. Now looking at slide number 3, is that the attachment?
It is.
All right. And for the record, what does the attachment say?
It is a flyer. I think it was a performance or an appearance. It was a mixtape release for Mr. Bennett at the Diamond Club, which, from my experience with other investigations, is a YFN stronghold.
And if you need to, you can use the screen to help point. point out as well.
Yeah, so you'll see it's just he's saying he has a mixtape release, and this is at the Diamond Club on Northside Drive.
Now, looking at slide 3, tell the jurors about the conversation that is happening as a result of this flyer.
So it's a little confusing, but at the time, if you look at the time and dates these messages are sent, the flyer and the initial conversation is started on Mr. Williams' phone that has a 213 area code or a Los Angeles area code. Once the flyer is sent by Mr. Huey, Mr. Williams switches to his Atlanta phone number and they engage in conversation to where Mr. Williams tells him, handle that tonight, and follows it up with slat. And then Mr. Huey responds, slat.
And you said that this was Mr. Williams' Atlanta number. On the left-hand side, it says slime. Would that be the contact, how the contact is saved in Mr. Huey's phone?
Yes, that's how it would appear in the phone.
And what is the Atlanta phone number?
It is 404-789-1371.
And what is the date, roughly the date and times of these text messages?
January 19th, 2020.
What is being depicted on slide 5 of this PowerPoint?
That is Mr. Williams using his Atlanta number to tell Mr. Huey on August 15th of 2020, go handle that, and he responds, slat.
Now, is this September 2nd, 2020?
It is.
Okay. And what is occurring in this text message conversation beginning on September 2nd, 2020?
Okay, so several months later, Mr. Huey is going to send another flyer for a YFN Lucci appearance or performance. And Mr. Williams responds, where's that at? Mr. Huey tells him, Claremont. Mr. Williams responds and says, slatty handle, stay very low. And Mr. Huey says, slat, for sure, I've been out the way.
And looking at the next slide, is this a copy of that flyer?
Yes, it is.
And when is the date of the appearance that Mr. Bennett is advertising?
September 6th.
Right. Now, going to the next slide. Does that conversation continue?
It does.
Okay. And if you could say for the record what the conversation is as it continues.
Mr. Huey tells Mr. Williams, I appreciate you for everything, my brother. Never about money with me. I'm built on loyalty. He sends the 100 emoji, which kind of means like, I'm for real about it. Mr. Williams says, slat, handle that, I got you. Mr. Huey responds, slat.
Now, going to the next slide, is there some additional conversation now with the 213 number that's identified as Spider or Mr. Williams?
There is.
Okay. And when is this conversation?
July 20th of 2020.
Okay. So this is after the first Lucci conversation, but before the second Lucci conversation?
Yes.
All right. And what is occurring in this conversation?
Mr. Huey sends, in the first message, you see an attachment. It's a video clip of a friend that wanted really bad. He was like trying to get his career off the ground as a rapper here in Atlanta. He says, post this for me, my brother. And then he uses a derogatory term for somebody and says, that person's out here in LA, twin. Not referring to his friend, he's referring to somebody else, somebody of the opposition, it appears.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to the speculation.
Sustained.
Yes. And is that just generally the context of this conversation?
Correct.
All right.